Hey guys, it's me, Delta1, here with RPK Airsoft, and today I'm starting a new video series called Tips, Tricks, and Facts on your Gearbox. And today, what I'll be showing you is my baby. Personally, I own this gun, and her name is Samantha. She is my RPK, and I respect the Gearbox, and the Gearbox will respect you. But let's get on with this series. First thing I'm going to talk about is that I'm going to tell you I've taken apart the piston so I can show you some things and all that good stuff. Put it back together. This is a polycarb SRC Gen 3 piston. This whole gearbox is an SRC AK Gen 3, not their Gen 2 models. Now I've put, I want to say, a rough estimate of over 20,000 rounds. First minor problems I've encountered is that I used a LiPo and I burnt out my motor. But I ran a direct connect and didn't have a fuse, and, well, I paid the price. Running a fuse can be good and can be bad. I personally don't run them. Now, if you're beginners and, you know, or not so much beginners, but intermediate and all that, I really recommend you stay with a fuse for the time being. The first problem is the motor went. Not a big deal. That's my fault. Shouldn't have run it so hard. I do 1-minute trigger pulls, so... Next thing I did is, you can see, I shaved off the last tooth on the piston. Therefore, it eliminates me stripping my gears. It also eliminates the factor of the gear right there. It eliminates the fact, I can't remember the name of the gear off the top of my head. It eliminates it from grabbing the second tooth with the first tooth off the gear, and then have one extra tooth set up here when it comes on, and I'll just strip all of them. So it eliminates your fact of stripping your piston. I recommend you do this to every single piston that you have, regardless or not. Today I will be replacing it with an azimuth piston. I hope I'm saying it right. It is confusing. It already comes with the last tooth pre-removed, so I recommend this. Well, I'm not going to say I recommend it at the moment. It looks and seems like a great piston, but I'm going to try it out. So, for all those people who are wondering if it's good or not, I personally, first impressions, like the piston quite a lot. It's super lightweight. I've seen videos of them flexing. The metal teeth are removable, but we'll see. But however, I will be keeping an aluminum piston head. I recommend that everyone has an aluminum piston head and aluminum cylinder head. For me, as a support gunner, this is a support gun setup. This doesn't always work for every, setup out there. But if you're support gunning, you need to have an aluminum piston and cylinder head. Reasons being, one, down here in Texas, the FPS limits allow you to have springs such as a M125 and M130 springs, so you're allowed to hit 450 for a support gunner. The spring I have in it is quite long. I've noticed this is an M125 matrix spring, the one that's shorter, and the one that's longer is a SRC M120 spring. My compression was at 431 FPS and averaged out at about 420. That's quite remarkable, and I like the compression. But as I was saying, the aluminum piston and cylinder head allows you to not have any cracks, as where polycarb pistons come in. Eventually, when they do break, and how they break, is they basically get a crack and you lose compression. I personally have friends that run high-speed setups on aluminum piston head. Now you may be wondering, why would they do that? It's because they crack, they crack so many piston heads. So they said it's just got to the point where, you may have to sacrifice 1 or 2 rounds per second, but you get reliability in return. Now, if you're gonna buy an aluminum piston head, make sure you have an aluminum cylinder head, or else you'll crack your cylinder head, because the aluminum is not good to hit on a polycarb. So make sure you do that. Also, this video is about support gunning, if you haven't already noticed. I personally, if you have any Gen 3 gearbox, it's going to have the 8mm bushings, which is what I like, or bearings. Bearings can be good, not ball bearings, but bearings is what I call them. They're great for support gunners, and they're great for all-over reliability and just decent rate of fire. I recommend the Gen 3 gearbox, the AK version, for anyone in AKs. You can get them for around anywhere from $100 to $150. They're kind of hard to find. I can get them, so if you want, I'll probably put it on the site sometime in the near future. Now, the Gen 3 gearbox has a aluminum spring guide with ball bearings. The reason you want ball bearings is it allows your spring to move freely and puts less stress on the gearbox, which is always good. Recommend getting a steel version. Aluminum's not going to do you any harm. It's just lighter. If you're going to be running like an M170 spring, get a steel, not aluminum, just for safer purposes. Anything over an M150 spring, you want to get a steel. So moving on, I have no ports in my cylinder for more compression. We'll slow down my rate of fire just a teeny bit. Nothing to really complain about. My trigger contacts, they're still in contact. They still work amazingly. Now, I also am going to be replacing my wiring, my spring, and my piston and my motor, and I'm going to be reshimming my gearbox. Now, if you don't know what shimming is these little metal spacers on the gear. You can see that. What that does is you allow the gearbox to have less movement up and down in between the gears in the shell. And you want it to be not move up and down at all, and you want it to be loose. It's a very tedious thing to do. It takes up quite a lot of time when you learn how to do it. I remember the first time I did it, it took me almost all day to do it right. But shimming is your key component to any gearbox. Now, for making a support gun setup, you're going to want to have something like a all-metal tooth piston. A lot of techs frown upon this, and I've heard a lot of techs, say that it's okay. You just have to make sure you do it right. Now, another problem is it's finding a good metal teeth and a polycarb that won't break. You could have the best metal teeth in the world, but it wouldn't mean anything if this isn't durable enough, the polycarbonate part. The piston itself. So that's why I'm testing this, and I know for a fact the best piston right now that I can think of is a modified with all metal piston teeth, but it costs somewhere around $40. This was about $25. So I took the cheaper route, but always taking the cheaper route isn't better, but I thought I'd give this a try. Now the next thing you're going to want to have is the ball bearing spring guide. And if you're doing a support gun, try not to use polycarbonate, unless you're, unless that's your only option. Especially when you're running anything above an M120 spring. I personally have a lot more experience with gearboxes, so I prefer to use metal piston teeth. But if you do it wrong, you can strip your gears and you're screwed. It's something you just got. It's a trial and error process. Now, the gears you're going to want to have are standard ratio or high torque. Don't have the ratios off the top of my head, but standard ratio and above. And if you really want to, you can get silent gears, but I honestly don't see what the point of that would be, is because you're going to be shooting at everyone and everyone's going to be looking in your direction. Now, I know I've rambled on a lot, but hopefully you're listening and I hope you enjoy this. But I'm going to continue. Your tappet plate is also a key factor. You always got to make sure, if you can get a sector piece, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it goes right here and ensures that you get a full stroke when your gears go back, and make sure you chamber everything, so it prevents a lot of misfeeding. Now, this gearbox came pretty well shimmed. This gear right here wasn't shimmed that well, and I'm going to be reshimming it today. The grease, however, was actually pretty nice. I personally use silicone grease, special silicone grease. You can get it at any Ace Hardware, or Home Depot, or Lowe's, or any hardware store. Wiring also is a key factor. I'm going to see if I can get 16 gauge wiring to fit in mine. I don't know if I'll be able to or not, but I'll try. One of the things you can notice is that right here, the plastic on it had melted. Like I said, guys, I do 1 minute trigger pulls. I literally do not let off the trigger if there is someone downrange. I don't care if I'm not hitting them or not. My goal is to make sure they stay behind cover. I shoot probably, within a 5 minute round, I probably use almost 7,000 rounds of ammunition. I literally do not let off the trigger. So I burned up my wiring, so it's all bad, but the wiring that comes with this is pretty good. But if you're running an RPK, you're going to want to get better wiring. I'll have some 16 gauge, which I'll show you. here's the 16 gauge wiring I bought. It's pretty thick compared to this wiring. I mean, that's really thick, but it'll allow for more energy efficiency, and you'll get more power out of your battery, and overall it's just better for your gun. This is 24 feet. I bought it at Ace Hardware for like less than $10. It was about $8.99, so it's 24 feet. I've seen on some major retailer websites wiring for 500 millimeters, which, here's an example of how long this is. This is a 650 millimeter barrel. Just barely fits off screen. 500 millimeters is about that much. And they want you to pay $20 for that. I paid $8.99. However, I'm also installing a Matrix type board. Thought I'd give that a try. 650, because RPK has such a ridiculously long barrel. So I'm looking forward to installing that. But anyways, here's the Matrix motor I bought. I've heard good things. I've also been told. I've also got a friend that had one, and they got it to pull up to an M210 spring. That's ridiculous. I don't even know where you can get springs like that. I know you can get them overseas, but this is a Matrix motor. I'm hoping that it'll do the job and it won't heat up as bad as my SRC. My SRC motor, however, heated up to the point where I physically burned my hand. But that's my fault for doing more than trigger pulls. So I'm hoping this will do good. Really high torque. It's not as high torque as the SRC, but the SRC is way too much high torque. It's great if you're using semi-auto sniper rifles. That's the best motor you can probably get that I recommend. Matrix, however, is a more affordable brand than a Sistema or some of the GMP motors that are high torque. It's around the $40 to $45 area, sometimes $55 depending on where you purchase this. But on A-Spec Airsoft, it's $45. So I think this is a great affordable motor. So I will be installing that in my gearbox today. Next thing I want to talk about is that your air nozzle right here. Your air nozzle plays a very vital role in your gearbox. That's what chambers and hits the BB and all that good stuff. So you can get them with seals or metal ones, but personally I prefer polycarb, because if you get a metal ones are only good if you're doing super high FPS, because that way it won't break your air nozzle. I've had friends that have crazy custom guns that shoot over 700 FPS, and they shatter these. They just shatter, they can't handle it. So that's, I guess, the reason why they make aluminum ones. I'm not really positive on that, but that's my best educated guess. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to be installing all these new parts in today. And if you're wondering what this was that I took out earlier, it's the anti-reversal latch. That plays a very vital role. You must have that. But for an SRC gearbox, I personally took out my Gen 2 because I wanted a Gen 3 because I like the 8mm bearings, and that plays a very vital role. So I recommend you get 7 and above for bearings. Personally, I found that the even number for bearing sizes are a little more reliable. So I don't know why that is. That's just out of my personal experience. It could be wrong. But this has been the tips and tricks and FAQ and just kind of a little bit of my own personal gun video. So guys, I wanted to let y'all know that I'm testing my new Cineo camera. This is in the 720p option, so let me know what you think of the quality. And I enjoy that y'all like watching my videos, just letting y'all know that. And I kind of like doing these videos, so I'm probably going to do more of them. So let me know what you think, guys, and thanks for watching.